Vande Lok Tilakam Sattvatta Bharta Vibhushanam Amara Krutyatsanam Prabuddham Loka Jivanam Pranaya Pramatta Jagadipanam Vande Jivana Jivanam Satpurisam Vande Jivana Jivanam Satpurisam Vande Jivana Jivanam Satpurisam. So, today I offer my obeisance at lotus feet of Sri Thakur, Sri Bodma, Sri Bodda, Sri Acharya Dev, Sri Dada. My hearty regards and hearty Joy Guru to everyone who has assembled here. Atanuda, you want me to speak in English or in Hindi?
No, Hindi is
mix up.
better. Mix up
Hindi
is fine. Hindi and English both. Mix up is fine.
Okay, so it's also correct that some people who have gathered today, they have not taken initiation yet. Is that correct? Or most people are already initiated, right? Anyway, so I will try to ठाकुर जी के बारे में बोलना इतना सहज काम इसलिए नहीं है क्योंकि उनका जीवन एक अथाह सागर जैसा है. His whole life is like an unfathomable deep ocean, right? So much of profundity, so much of vastness. Where do you start? Where do you end? That's a question no human being can ever achieve to do that. It's an audacious task. It is not going to be possible for anyone. But anyway, I try to always speak from my experience and give a small glimpse about how magnanimous his life was and how great his ideology is. So let's take a small example. Let's say I want to reach a higher point. We are on a physical plane. We are all working. We want to go to a hilltop or to an elevated place. How do you go there? There could be several ways. One can say, I'll put a pole and then ask people to climb up the pole. It's perhaps the shortest and the quickest way to reach a height, right? But how many people can actually walk on a pole? Even acrobats would find it slippery. They go a little and then they drop down. An easier way to reach a heightened place is to put a set of steps. We take a step up, then we move at a flat little and then go up again flat a little. If you create a series of steps, there is a likelihood that many people can go. If the steps are further, if the height of each step is slowly reduced to create a ramp is essentially a series of steps where the height of the step is really small. Then even people who find it very difficult and they have to be moved on a wheelchair or something, they could be moved up a ramp. Now, this is actually highly reflective of how we want to make people grow in different planes and dimensions. Even on the spiritual plane, if we have to climb, it has to be a series of steps where we first elevate ourselves and then try to stabilize that step before taking the very next step. And Sri Thakur, the prophet of the age, fulfiller the best, who fulfills everyone from the smallest of creatures to the biggest and giantest of creatures, everyone as per their individual distinctiveness. He gave a very simple a set of tenets in life that one can pursue and follow to achieve this. The first two is what he called as Yajan, or in Bangla, Jajan. Jajan is essentially the step of self-elevation, and Jajan is to stabilize the point that one has risen up to. Both have to be done in tandem, in sequence, continuously, making progress further and further to reach a distant goal. So, what is Jajan? Jajan is doing everything that while keeping our existence, upholding our existence, nurturing it, helps us move further. Now, what is this elevation? Elevation is essentially, I know myself. I play so many different roles. I am son to my parents. I am husband to my wife. I am father to my children. Some people call me brother. Some people call me friend. Some people call me colleagues. I play multifarious roles, and I am no different from other individuals in the society. Every human being is playing multifarious roles at any given point in time. Now, while playing these roles, we have to take decisions. We take decisions using our judgment. What essentially differentiates a human being from other animals, species, or beings is this immense power of judgment where we can differentiate the right from the wrong. We can think about what is individually right, what is collectively right, what is right for a larger cause. We have that ability to think and judge, more evolved than many other beings. Now, if nature has endowed me with this power to judge, it only behooves upon me to try wholeheartedly to make this power of judgment more and more refined. The higher my sense of judgment be, the more elevated I can feel myself to be. Even if I have to take decision in a split second, I would rather veer towards on the right, towards the side of being right than not. And this is self-elevation where a man has raised his or her level of consciousness to a state where one can be completely at peace with oneself, one can take decisions, one can watch events and not get afflicted or affected by it. We all, so I see, a, I definitely know there is a better Manoj than what I am. And it is my earnest desire to be that Manoj, which is higher than me. And it is a continuous progression that I want to make. Now, it's only possible if I understand all the laws of nature and live according to these laws of nature in harmony with them. Now, in order to understand this, I need a principal guide in my life. I need a center in my life, a living center in my life. And if I deeply love that center, and if that center is not in a human form, it is very difficult to understand the set of abstract ideas continuously. If that center, which is the manifestation of all these ideas, happens to be a living form, a human form, then it becomes much more easy for me to follow. I look, I watch, I observe, I listen, I speak to, I hear, I understand, I follow. These are all the steps I have to do. When there is deep love and affection towards a central ideal, things become easy. But at the same time, I have to realize that no one can escape the laws of nature. Thakur calls this laws of nature as vidhi. And in a beautiful couplet in Bangla, he says, Bidhi kintu noiko gyani, noiko janto noy chetan, ishtanugo beta gyanir gyane vidhir niyantran. Bidhi kintu noiko gyani, noiko janto noy chetan. These laws of nature themselves are not conscious in the sense they don't have a free will to decide to go this way or not, or that way. If it rains, anyone who goes under the rain will get wet. The rain will not decide, oh, this is a small child, let me not rain. let me not downpour on the child. Oh, this is an old fragile man, let me not downpour on that. The rain will not decide that. If it is fire, the fire will burn. Whether it is old, big, fragile, strong, doesn't matter. It will just fire with equal intensity and heat to anybody. So laws of nature are applicable on everyone. Thakur would say, even Vidhata, the creator of the universe, if he were to be incarnated in a human form, he would also have to abide by the laws of nature. That strict are these laws of nature. Perhaps that is why in English there is the saying, time and tide wait for none. The laws of nature are applicable on one, but at the same time, they can be controlled to some extent in the sense that we don't have to be ill impacted by the laws of nature. We should just know how to adopt, how to adjust, and so on. Let's say I am reading a novel and I like reading novel outside in the garden. I pick up this novel, very deeply engrossing novel. I sit on a bench and I start reading. It's very pleasant, rising sun, cool breeze, and I'm enjoying the novel as well as the ambient that I'm in, the ambience that I'm in. After some time, the angle of the sun changes, it becomes hot, and it becomes actually scorching hot. My skin starts to feel the pain. Now, while reading the book deeply engrossed, Because of this motor sensory coordination, somewhere in my brain, it sends the signal that you are actually feeling the pain or heat of the sun. I just move from that bench to another area, which is under shade in the garden, to continue to enjoy my book. Rather than complaining, oh, it's too hot here, there is no more beauty left in the garden, which is foolish thing to do, I just reposition myself to continue to read the novel, enjoy it, as well as enjoy the nature. The small movement is just a symbolic movement, but the subconscious mind always sends the signal to reposition oneself, every individual, so that you don't really have to confront the loss of nature. We abide by that, and we still enjoy nature. The difficulty comes when I have to take conscious decisions. So, more often than not, for many people, the conscious decisions are subjugated and controlled by the complexes, which tend to be a part of the mind that we are born with. So these complexes, when they dictate terms to us, that becomes really very difficult, very challenging. These complexes are also a blessing if we know how to harness them, how to make use of them, how to meaningfully adjust them. If you do not do that, if you subjugate ourselves as victims of these complexes, then it becomes very difficult. Complexes like our whims, our caprices, that of anger, lust, passion, these complexes, they actually also shadow and cloud our power of judgment. We are not able to take the right call when we are clouded by these complexes. And so it just makes most sense that I rise myself at least to that level where I can meaningfully adjust these complexes and not make them a hurdle or an obstacle in my growth. So Thakur says about this Vani on Vidhi, he has another beautiful couplet. He says, বিধির নীতির একটু বেচাল একটু বেসামাল দক্ষতাহীন শিথিল চলন ভাঙেই জীবন তাল. If we do not try to live in harmony with these laws of nature, it can actually make our life go hocus pocus. It can actually break the life, and it can break the harmony in our life. So we have to, all of us, we have to try to live according to the laws of nature. Now, people who want to do that, they will at least have to show that much of determination, that much of strength in their character and thinking, that they are willing to voluntarily adopt these practices. And that is why Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, our guru, I think most of us have accepted him, who we regard as a prophet, in the only book that he wrote by his hand at a meager age of 22, in a night time, just over a night, to give it as a gift to a parting gift to a friend, under the light of a wick lamp in a small cottage beside the river Padma, which is a tributary to river Ganges. He wrote down, and in the first chapter of that book, holy book Satyanusaran, The Pursuit of Truth, he writes, first of all, we have to be bold and brave. We have to fight against this weakness within us, overcome that weakness. If we do not have that strength, we do not actually even get the right to enter the kingdom of heaven. Heaven or paradise is that ultimate place that we want ourselves to be in that state of pure consciousness. If you have to go there, we first of all, we have to be really strong and bold and brave. He writes down in that same Satyanusaran afterwards, Veera Bhogya Vasundhara, the fortune favors the brave. We have to be brave, and there are signs of bravery. The one aspect of this bravery, he says, is our thinking and our speaking, they align. For most people who are not able to do the right work is because they do not let the good thoughts form, take shape in mind, and then translate to action. The psychomotor coordination does not happen completely, because doing that action is a voluntary action. We have to move our limbs, we have to move our muscles, we have to do the work. These conscious voluntary actions will only happen when we have good thoughts and have a strong willingness to transfer. Now, before we translate the thoughts to action, there is the speech in between. So there has to be coordination between our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. Now, for many people, thoughts to words don't align. We think one way and we speak other way. And to top it all, in many management schools, they teach this very thing to their students and call it as marketing skills. What marketing skills? If I'm not able to express myself openly, myself freely, is it actually marketing skills, or is it tying knots around the path of my growth? That is mon mukh ek hawa lage. So we have to make what we think and what we speak, there should be a coordination in them. But what is the right definition of this one? Are there times in life when we should actually not be speaking the first thought that comes to our mind? In general, it's good to think before you speak. Many, it's a good proverb, many wise people say so. Thakur says, Jemon koile sufal ane, safal chahe dati, mon mukhak takei bole jani seta khandi. Just blurting out all random thoughts that come to our mind is not making mind and words align. One has to at least basically do that minimal judgment. Is my words going to play a positive impact or not? One has to think about that. Be little thoughtful and mindful about that. If otherwise, we cannot call it as mind and words align. This is, I'll give a small example. Yeah, Nanugopal Chakraborty. I think many of us would have heard of his name, the former secretary of Satsang Ashram. He was, this is like, there's a time when Sri Sri Thakur had left his mortal frame and Yogacharya Sri Sri Bodda was the Pradhan Acharya Dev of Satsang. So around an afternoon time, little pre-noon time, Nanugopal bowed down to Sri Sri Bodda and said he would go towards his room. As he started walking, he saw there was some person who was looking queerly at Ashram here and there, appeared to be a new person. Nanida asked him and immediately realized that he is a tourist and having like generally meandered through his way, had happened to come to the ashram. So Nanida very excitedly told him about ashram, about Thakur's principles, and did basically a jajan for 15 minutes and then readied him to take initiation. Now, for people who do not know, initiation is a process of accepting guru in life. I mentioned about this central ideal guru. You have to everybody has to accept a guru in life, and that process is called initiation. Now, with that intention that he would take initiation if he were to go and have darshan of Bodda, took him to Bodda. As he bowed down to Bodda, before he could tell anything, Bodda looked at that person and asked him, are you feeling hungry? He said, yes. And then Bodda eyed him, and then asked deliberately to Nanida, when did you have your last meal? And little reluctantly initially, that person admitted he had had his meal not that whole day, the previous day, and it was almost noon time. He was a tourist, had lost his wallet and bag, had no money to buy food, and when he asked here and there, somebody told him, you want food, you are hungry. A hotelier told him, go to Satsang Ashram, they give free food there, they will give you free food there. So hungry, crestfallen, tired and exhausted, he had come towards the center. Bodda asked Nanida to go and arrange for his food in Anand Bazar immediately. And after like that person had gone, Nanida and said, you didn't even check what the person was looking for and did a jajan to him for 15 minutes. Nanida also realized that. Says that is not what we really do. Unless the person who is receiving the words is in a mental state to receive, just doing jajan is not jajan. So this intuition, this power of intuition also grows in a human being when we accept a guru in life. And when we are constantly thinking about that love-centered and ideal, we activate ourselves. Slowly and steadily, the fine senses also develop. We are able to understand the more and more subtle things more easily. And when we will not really achieve a lot in our life unless we actually do work. Now, let's say Thakur would give so deft and beautiful definition of so many key terms. He would say, "Dhare rakhe satta take, সেই তো আসল ধর্ম, শিষ্ট চলন শিষ্ট জীবন, তাই ধর্মর কর্ম। Because anything that upholds and nurtures existence is actually dharma. And this word dharma has no equivalent in any other language. It is one and unique. There is no plural form. It has only a singular form, that is dharma. Dharma can never become many. Views can be many. People can come up with their own philosophy or own ideology also with a partial understanding, and that could be right. Two different people with opposing views on certain aspects could also be equally right in their own ways. But dharma can never be many. It is always one and unique. Thakur would say that it is absolute. And but shishta chalon, shishta jivan, tai dharmer karma. So one has to be disciplined in one's life, habits, behavior, and conduct. And this discipline is what sort of acts as a guide rail and guardrails for one to walk on the path of dharma. Now, if you get into the theory of understanding of all this, it could be very complex, it could take time. But yes, this journey is not short. This journey is a long journey. Because the journey is long, if you get perplexed by it and not take the first step, you will never walk, never start walking. There is an old Chinese proverb, probably said by the Chinese philosopher Lao Tse. He used to say, the longest of all journeys but starts with a single step. So we have to start. Initiation, as the word implies, is only the beginning, just the beginning. We get to know the fundamental tenets that we have to follow. And I mentioned about the Jajan and Jajan as briefly as possible. See, Jajan is the self-elevation. One cannot really rise in this world and remain sustained at that level unless the environment supports that. A man essentially has a tripolar relationship with environment, the individual, the ideal, and the environment. This is like a triangle. We create a tripolar relationship. Anything we see in the world, like if we, these are three pillars are at sort of a minimum required to create a stable structure. Those who have used mechanics or anyone, we all use objects, we would have realized if you have to put a tripod to take a, you have a camera, a very beautiful camera. It can only take a picture if the camera itself is stable. Now, most human beings don't have that stable hands. So you put it on a tripod. The tripod keeps it stable. Even if the ground is very uneven, we can still adjust the legs of the tripod and keep a very expensive camera stable on that to take beautiful photographs or videographs. Now, we always need at a minimum 3 legs to create any stable object, or even if it is not in an equilibrium, right? We have to do that, we have to balance that. So human beings also have these 3 poles, a 3-polar relationship. It's man, individual, and ideal. In a married life, it is again 3, the husband, the wife, and the ideal. We always have this tri-level arrangement to make it stable. Now, we need Jajan, Jajan, and Ishtabruti. Jajan is, we said we want to go higher, we want to go up. Now, if I have risen in any field and I want to sustain my level at that, I have to encompass environment with that. So Jajan is this conscious step that we do by means of service, sympathy. We want to elevate others. We want to do good for others. We want to drive away pain from others' life, whether others are human beings associated with my life or other beings, even like plants, trees, smaller animals, everyone included. I have to do my best with whose life my life is interconnected to see that they are also in a state of happiness, in a state of growth. They are not afflicted by disease, by destruction. They are not really writhing under pain. If they are, then I cannot really go any further. So Thakur says in a couplet, সবাইকে বড় করবি যত ততই বড় হবি রে তুই বড় হেবার একটি পথ একটি ছাড়া নাইটি দুই. If you really want to become big in life, then you have to make others also big or grown. To the extent, in fact, we grow others, we grow ourselves. This is what I think just a few minutes ago, Atnubhai was telling, the power of this prayer for others. He says, just the wish and prayer for others' well-being, it automatically brings about a goodness in us. This is following the laws of nature. This is just nature. Nature awards those who want to make themselves instruments in the hands of nature. In fact, we say some people are some people have a very high power of immunity. Nowadays, all this COVID news has affected the whole world. The same medicine has different impact on different people. Someone could be appearing physically very strong, going to gym with six abs and all, and when afflicted by COVID, immediately deteriorates in health. Someone could look very lean and mean, but is so um, excited and so exalted in doing higher work that even if he's affected by COVID, gets out of that in 10, 12 days and says, okay, there's work. By the way, most people who have a stronger goal and we keep themselves extremely busy and engrossed in higher cause, work for higher cause, they don't get easily impacted by such, whether it's COVID virus or any other virus. We have to, the real mark of a health is this ability to combat disease, and even if affected, how to quickly come out of that. So those who sincerely pray for others' success, for others' well-being, they subconsciously attract the blessings of the nature to remain good themselves. So the Thakur says that in Bangla, "Operer Mangal Kamna Nijer Mangaler Prasuti." It acts like Prasuti is mother. Like it gives birth to the ability to remember. These two Jajan principles are therefore so important. I mean, we can never overemphasize the importance of that, overtell the importance of that. And Ishtavriti is this practice that we follow on a daily basis, which keeps this process of initiation alive. Now, it is also a human weakness that we think about the providence and the Almighty when we confront distress and duress. When we feel we are lost, we have nowhere to go, then we call upon God. But the moment we are out of that rut, we once again indulge in all these wishes of the complexes and forget conveniently God. So God gives and forgives, man gets and forgets, but we don't want to be in that league. In a beautiful long couplet, Thakur says, দুর্দশায় যখন মনটি কাবু বৃত্তীয় কাবু পায় বাঁচার তরে মানুষ তখন বিধির পথে যায় বিধির পথে পুষ্টি পেয়ে চিত্ত সবল হলে বৃত্তি ধান্দার স্বার্থ নিয়ে আবার ছুটে চলে এই ভাবেতে ওঠা নামায় মরণের মুখে ধাম ইষ্ট উৎসর্জনে কিন্তু সবই পাল্টে যায়. So it's a little long one, says that when affected by distress and duress, a man calls upon God. And then with that intention of prayer, one actually starts following the path of nature. And if you do that, we get out of that. But the moment person is out, again falls, again does the same mistakes, falls down. If a person keeps doing this sort of like every time we do a mistake, we fall in a ditch, and then we call upon God, oh please extricate me from here, and we do the right things, we get out of that. If you keep doing that, it's just like toppling. It's like tossing ourselves up and down at the same level. We really don't move forward. We actually lose this lifespan and lead ourselves to death of this lifespan. We don't move further. But if you want to really move further, we have to actively involve ourselves in an active service towards the love Lord. Then we don't go towards death, rather we go towards immortality. Immortal in sense like make this particular lifespan worthy of it and go to the next stage in the next birth, where we go start from a higher level to further continue in the journey. Every day in the prayer, twice, both in the morning and evening prayer, we have this small line. Daya karo mere saiya, devo prem ki daat, dukha sukha kuch vyape nahi chhute sab utpat. This term utpat, it has actually come from two roots, ut and pat, which is uthan and patan, which is rise and fall, rise and fall. Chhute sab utpat. We want to get out of that vicious cycle of rise and fall. Small rises, fall, small rises, falls. There will be ups and downs in life. No human being can be bereft of that. But these ups and downs in the life are still on an upward trajectory. The curve of the life should be upward, and then there will be these undulations on the trajectory. There will be ups and downs. But if the line is flat and there is up and down, then we are actually not moving upwards. So, as I understood, the simplest way for a human being to make the best of this lifespan, even to understand these deeper questions of life: where have I come from? Where am I going to? What is the ultimate destination of my journey? Am I doing the right steps towards that journey. Is one lifespan sufficient? If not, if life is essentially a cascade of the spans, if I do not play my role properly, sincerely in one span, what is the guarantee that I'm actually moving on that journey? All these deep questions. Well, if somebody is intellectual enough, we want to pursue that, we can pursue. But whether we spend time in understanding, well, we have to understand over time. The easiest, I think, what I have understood is to be fortunate enough to come across a living prophet, and we are that fortunate. From the prophet incarnates, uh, depending on the need of mankind, after a few hundred years, a few centuries, or sometimes after thousands of years. Now we are so fortunate that in our lifetime we got to know about Thakur, who just did his Leela as an incarnate and he left. But he gave something that can guide mankind for the next thousands of years to come, among which he started this Acharya Parampara. We can see Thakur alive through the current Acharya Dev. That is why association with the latest Acharya Dev, the current Acharya Dev, is so important. We, because of COVID, we are not able to travel and physically go and see him. So arrangements have been made for virtual connections. But yes, to be associated with the Acharya Dev is to always be on the lookout for his commands. The moment he gives any commands or any instructions, we should try our best to translate it into action. And that is how we live in accordance. That is how we live in association with the Acharya Dev. So a lot to say. We can, as I mentioned, like Thakur's ideology is vast like ocean. I know a few drops from that ocean. But even if I try to narrate that few drops, it will perhaps span over days, multiple days, or maybe longer than longer than that. The more we try to learn about Thakur, the more we see is that it is mind-boggling to even sometimes imagine. It takes so much of time to read a small book written by Thakur or the recorded conversations with Sisi Thakur, and to muse over that, to ruminate, to actually understand the meaning of that takes even longer. To translate that into one's behavior and action takes even longer. And how is it possible for a human being in one human life to produce so much of literature? It is mind boggling. And Sri Thakur, it is only possible when the person who is giving is not a normal human being. I tell you, like this Holy Satyanusaran, it was actually written by Sri Thakur when he was age 22 in the year 1910. The first edition of that was printed around the year 1916, right? And many years down the line, I think the second edition, Sushil Chandra Bhattacharya, who was the publisher of the book, he had also published many books by the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore, written by him. So Rabindranath Tagore had received the Nobel Prize, had toured the world twice, and was on his deathbed. And Sushil went to him with holding a copy of the Satyanusaran. Rabindranath Tagore, we all know, like the great poet that he was, a saint poet, he read page after page, and after every chapter he would ask, "Hey, Lekhokar boysta koto bolli re? What was the age of the author, did you tell?" He says, "Sir, 22 years." Then he finished that whole book in one go on his bed, and then said, "This creation is not possible from a normal human being. I wish I had more life to see him in person." These were the last words of Rabindranath Tagore, the last book that he read. Then he bowed down to the book and he left his body. So it like a jeweler of highest standard can quickly know the value of a gemstone. A person who is extremely good programmer can quickly spot a candidate in an interview and know, or after looking at the work and spot, oh, this is the person we want to bet on. Most managers do that. We keep looking at people, so who is the one who we can bet long term? Like gauging the depth of a talent, gauging the depth of a gemstone, it needs an expert of that level. So think, in order to even recognize the expert, that supreme soul when they arrive, it is not possible for normal human beings to even recognize the value of the Supreme Father. Thakur says, the Thakur was asked when does the Lord incarnate? And he said, when the ominous tyranny tutored with hellish hoe, through a pythonic push of desire reigns with a ramming blow, soul rebels, sobs with a panting urge for rescue, then the blissful God comes down with his stretching hands. And he comes to the most neglected corner of the world with atom bombs of love in his hand. How do we recognize him? His real income is people and his expenditure only love. He comes to the most neglected corner of the world. Unless there are people who he brings along with him who will know and identify and discover this gem, most humankind may not be able to even recognize him. That phase is over. We are so fortunate that phase is over. People recognized him. Some real devotees of that higher superior souls, they took birth with him, they discovered him, and they got to know, they revealed it to mankind that Supreme Father has come. Now it is up to us. We are in this land, like we are in United States, in Canada, new land. Uh, about Jesus Christ, these people did not know about Jesus Christ more than 1,000 years ago. US was colonized roughly about 500, 600 years ago. The whole of Latin America was colonized about 600 years ago. Now, for Jesus Christ came more than 2,000 years ago. For 1,400 years after Jesus Christ had come, nobody in this whole continent knew about Jesus Christ. Now think about it. This entire spread of Christianity has happened in 600 years. Similar about Islam, they actually came even afterwards. Now we are actually ahead in that. C.C. Thakur came roughly about 130 years ago. We are already here, and we are not only one or two individuals, we are quite a few. But it depends on us, the kind of strength we can be to girdle of C.C. Thakur. If we follow C.C. Thakur very, very sincerely in our life, very sincerely, very ardently, if we think about him, we speak about him, we try to do for him, then we would be able to do our bit in ensuring that people here get to know the latest prophet who has come, who has painstakingly come, given his message of love, peace, amity to everybody, and then departed. With this humble appeal to everyone who has taken into Tagore, let us every day do this introspection, which is a part of our jajan. When we retire to the bed before in the night, we sit and meditate for some time, and we think of all the actions we did that day. If there is any mistake I did, I want to resolve not to repeat it. First, try to rectify it, mend it, and not repeat it in the future. Even if I did not do any mistake, I want to go through as to what did I do and how did I do. Is there a way to make it more efficient? Can I do it with lesser resources, lesser time, lesser effort, lesser cost? Can I accomplish the same thing or more than that? That way, through a process of continuous self-analysis, I want to make myself more and more efficient. And early in the day, after we get up and before we get into the daily activities, obviously I have to do Ishtavriti. I have to prepare myself to do Ishtavriti. So I do sit on this deep meditation, and then I take a divine vow. All of us do that. We call it as auto-initiative urge. I want to envigor, I want to rekindle the divine qualities within me. Every day, I am the son of the Almighty. If I am son of the Supreme Father, those instincts of divinity are there in me. Let them rise, let them grow, let them not be subdued by any other thick coating over it. I want to break that free. I want to grow it, sprout it. So every day we take that auto-initiative urge, and then very, very humbly we make a material offering to the living Lord, so that this connection with him remains completely bonded and strong. That is Ishtavriti, which makes me think about my Lord, do something for my Lord, give him, offer him something every day. So that is what keeps me my motor running. So that was a Jajan Jajan Ishtavriti Korle Kate Mahabhiti. The biggest of fears from life will get completely allayed if we just follow this Jajan Jajan Ishtavriti properly. And then there are two other sub pillars, which is Swasthayini Sadachar. So from 3 to 5 to make it a even more strong. But today perhaps I will not touch upon Swasthayini and Sadachar. For some other day we keep it. But today I humbly pray that all of us who have taken C.C. Thakur, we will ourselves follow these principles of Jajan Jajan Ishtavriti very, very thoroughly, and anybody who comes in touch with our life should not get bereft of this, the power of the Jajan Jajan Ishtavriti. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। वन्दे पुरुषोत्तम। जय गुरु।